Shalom everyone, and today we study Parashat Aharei-Mot and Parashat Kedoshim. Those two parashot are being read this week, especially this coming Shabbat. And what is the connection between the two parashot, although it looks like totally different issues in some way? And why these parashot are being read this time of the year? Because Parashat Aharei-Mot is mostly being read on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is another season. So what Yom Kippur has to do with this week? And Parashat Kedoshim, also, the main topic of Parashat Kedoshim is the most famous verse from the Torah, love others as you love yourself. Why in this part of the year? We just have to remember that Parashot Aharei-Mot and Kedoshim are being read always during the counting of the Omer. And the counting of the Omer, this is a period of 49 days that basically we follow in the steps of the children of Israel leaving Egypt, and it took them 49 days between the Exodus and Mount Sinai revelation. Mount Sinai revelation was on the 50th day. So these 7 weeks are really special, and they're being called Sefirat HaOmer. In Hebrew, it has double meaning. Sefirat HaOmer, in the simple way, is counting the Omer. Omer is a sheaf of grains, while the first day of Pesach, the high priest and the people go out of the walls of Jerusalem and they harvest a whole sheaf of barley. And that's why it's called Sfirat Omer, because from that sheaf, Omer, it takes 7 weeks till you harvest the first sheaf of wheat. So there are 7 weeks because right now, during Pesach, this is when the wheat blooms in Israel, and it takes 7 weeks till you can make the harvest. So here it is. So we're talking about the simple aspect. It's very, very obvious. Now, on the spiritual aspect, we learn from the Zohar that the word Sephirah can be read or be interpreted as, or simply, it means counting, but Sephirah also is an illumination. We're talking about the Sephirot, the emanations, illuminations of the tree of life. And what is Omer? The Zohar is teaching us about the white light of the Creator, the original white light that is white as Omer Lavan Naki, as a white shining color of the sheaf of wheat, golden white. So here we have the game of words that on one hand, yes, it is an agricultural holiday, although the holiday was given in Egypt, in which the weather is different and the rhythm of the cycle of sowing, of planting and harvest is different than in Israel. Different climate zone, totally different climate zone. So here, what we're talking about? We are talking about one important thing when we come to the Kabbalistic explanation and what's in it for us. The idea is that when we leave Egypt, we spoke about it on Passover, when we leave Egypt, we leave our own Egypt, our own boundaries, our own slavery, our own whatever binds us and enslaves us. So in order for that to happen, once a year we get an energy shock on the night of Passover to give us a push uh, kind of a fulfillment from above of huge light, so to lift us up and to give us kind of a taste of freedom. However, what did we do for that? We read the Haggadah. We ate matzot. We drank wine. We chewed up the maor, the bitter herbs. That's not so much work to get this infinite light that was given on Passover. So therefore, that light disappeared the next day. And now the light that we got at once in one shot at the eve of Passover, now we receive that in 49 illuminations of light. Sefirat HaOmer, illumination of light. Those 49 days basically will somehow determine our spiritual journey for the coming year. So basically, our job during these 49 days, our spiritual job, is to allow those lights to come in, to ride the wave, to surf the wave, so we can arrive to Shavuot, Mount Sinai revelation, and reach as high as possible and to the highest level of freedom, freedom from any kind of death. And what is death, as with the Zohar is teaching us? The moment Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, they experienced death. Every time we fall, every time we are disappointed, when we get that the feeling of victimization, upset, anger, and any kind of negative emotional fit, we die. We die a little bit. And that confines us, that enslaves us, that belittles us. And that is exactly the antithesis of what we are supposed to be. So those 49 days are supposed to be focused on freedom, on who is the person I would like to become. So what do you do during a period like this of 7 weeks? You do a lot of meditation, you do a lot of cleansing, a lot of people do spring cleaning, spiritual cleansing, and also body cleansing, because the whole world is dancing the rhythm of cleansing from any boundaries, any limitation. If you felt like doing like, I don't know, like any kind of fasting, juice fasting, or water fasting, then you're just riding or surfing the wave. This is the time of the year. And that is why we read Parashot Aharei-Mot and Parashat Kedoshim. And let's see how. First of all, Parashat Aharei-Mot is starting with one verse that is separated from the rest of the parasha. Chapter 16, the book of Leviticus, Vayikra. Remember, Vayikra is about the calling from above. וידבר אדוני אל משה אחרי מות שני בני אהרון, and God talks to Moses after the death, Aharei-Mot, after the death of the two sons of Aaron, בקרבתם לפני אדוני וימותו. בקרבתם, as they got closer to God and died. And what does that mean? I'm trying to find the word kovatam is as they approached, got closer. Also, it's the same shoresh as korban, sacrifice. They kind of sacrifice their lives just to get closer to the light of the Creator. However, this is very important because they did it because they were the highest souls incarnated in the body. ever, and they felt the revelation of godliness in the dedication of the temple. Parashat Shmini describes that more than anybody else. Somehow they lost it and they jumped into the fire. Can you imagine the fire is going up to God and they just joined the fire? Couldn't stay here anymore. So we don't see any condemnation of them, kind of. However, they had to complete that. And the Zohar is giving us something very important to learn about the spiritual journey. We can see that already in the second verse of the Zohar of this parasha, Rabbi Yitzchak opened, and he's quoting from the Psalms 2, Ivdu et Adonai bi'irah, serve God with awe, A-W-E, vegilu bir'ada, and rejoice with a tremor. Uchtiv, and it says, it adds another quote that is from Psalms 100. Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, serve God with happiness. Bo lefanav bir'ana, approach him with joy. Hane krai kashyana adade. These two verses, it's like they contradict each other. Elahachitana, however we studied, Ivdu et Adonai bi'ira, serve God with awe, דכל פולחנה דבעי ברנש למפלח קמא מראה, בקדמיתה באי יראה. We learn it many times. Every worship, every service, every mitzvah, every action of connecting to the power of the Creator, the infinite power of the Creator, must start with awe. Why with awe? Because it's like, I gave many times this example. You need the service of an electric appliance in your household. However, you have to remember before using any kind of electric appliance that the electricity is a blessing, but it can kill you. It can get the whole house on fire unless you use it with care. You have to deal with electricity with a lot of respect, because you have to be aware, again, AWE, aware of the huge force that electricity is, which means any household wired with electricity can be deadly, and you have to be aware of it so your life can continue. So if we are talking about electricity, which without it our lives is doomed, without computers, without electric light, without heating, cooling, everything for cooking, ironing, all the services we get through electricity, we're just going back many years backwards into a very slow path with a lot of services that we don't have anymore, like washing machines. Okay? It's all electricity. Now, we can't without it. However, we have to respect its power. And this is just electricity. While the power of the Creator himself is much bigger than the power of electricity. So, of course, if we learn that connecting to the electric network is very important on one hand, but very dangerous on the other hand. And that's just electric power. The power of the Creator, which is much higher than that, you have to respect it. And that's the meaning of awe. Awe starts with respect. Awe is about awareness of the greatness of the power you are connecting to. So the Zohar is asking, why do we have on one hand to rejoice, to be happy about it? Because this is the source of everything that is important, the light of the Creator. And God said, let there be light. This is the source of life. This is the source of every fulfillment we can ask for. Can't without it. On the other hand, if you are not aware of how powerful it is and how dangerous it is if you're not really connecting to it by the rules, you will be consumed like the two sons of Aaron. They approached the light of the tree of life without awe, just with rejoicing, happiness, and they just jump in it. And they were consumed with fire. Therefore, these two verses we mentioned from Psalms, they tell us exactly what the story is about. You need to start with awe. You have to be aware of the intensity of the power you are dealing with. This is not a game. This is the power with a big THE, the power. That's the power. There's no greater power than that. So in the beginning, the Zohar says you need awe. Without awe, you don't have respect. Without respect, you cannot follow the rules properly. Now, after you follow the rules properly, then you can make a connection. Then you can rejoice. Then you can celebrate the flow of power that you achieved. And therefore, the Zohar says, Yizke lachar kach, you will merit thanks to the awe. It's not fear. We're not afraid of electricity. We are aware of its power and we respect the rules because we are very happy using electricity. However, we respect it. We pay the bills. We treat it with respect. We do not plug into the system appliances that are not approved. That's how it works. So we don't think about it, but we do it out of respect because we do not want to short circuit the household. We do not want damage to happen by fire or by electrocuting. We don't. We respect our freedom. Using electricity depends on that awe. Because if you're not having that awe, you say, oh, you just connect the wires. What does it matter? What's the result? Always, it's a terrible pain. So, if you start with awe, says the Zohar, then you can merit izke לאחר כך לעשות בשמחה מצוות התורה. Then you can perform with happiness the mitzvah of the Torah. Now, what's the merit? Because the same way you plug in an appliance, and then you enjoy using the appliance, could be any kind of electric machine, electric device, and you are happy because of you getting some service. Same thing, every mitzvah and mitzvah from the Torah is like activating an appliance, and you have to connect it to the network. If you do that, then you'll merit to be happy because you will feel the service that you get. ועל כן כתוב, that's why it says, מה השם אלוקיך שואל מעמך כי אם ליראה. Uh, this is you can find it in Deuteronomy 10. What does God, your Lord, ask from you? Awe. If you have awe, then you already find a way when you are aware to the awesome power of electricity, you can harness it and use it. If you're not aware how powerful it is, you cannot get the benefit, only danger. So why they say Vegilu bir'ada, and you will rejoice with a tremor. דאסיר לברנש למחדי יתיר בעלמא הא במילי דעלמא. When you celebrate and you rejoice in this physical world, you have to be aware that this is limited, which means the joy you can have from food is limited. The joy you can have from other physical stuff is limited. The joy enjoying from the spiritual realm, this is unlimited. And therefore, we can learn the rule. How do you know it's limited? Because when you are enjoying the physical realm, the rule is what is more is less. Let's say you eat the food you love the most. The more you eat, you enjoy the less. The less you enjoy. Sometimes you eat, let's say if it's meat, could be ice cream, chocolate. There's so many kinds of food. The more you eat, the less joy you experience. Till finally, uh, you are this, you're feeling disgusted. So there's no joy. On the other hand, when it is a spiritual, a soul journey of joy, the more is more. The more you enjoy, the more you expand your ability to enjoy. The more you rejoice, the more you expand your ability to rejoice. The more happy you are, the more you expand your ability to be happy. So, which way would you take? The way of what is more is less, or the way that what is more is more? On the spiritual realm, what is more is more. However, what's the problem? That in the beginning, the joy and the pleasure is much, what's the word? Tangible, much more tangible, much more rewarding. You have to overcome the wiring of your brain and your body in order to enjoy connecting to the tree of life. That needs a lot of meditation, a lot of Zohar study, a lot of spiritual study. What happens is that your brain, as you do the meditations, the prayers, the Zohar study, and so on, your brain starts to be rewired till your brain responds to the spiritual awakening with the serotonins and the endorphins and so on, until you reach a place in which your brain is so rewired that it's not even a free will, which means choosing enjoying on a spiritual level or the physical level. The physical joy is kind of redundant because it's another part of the brain that experiences joy. And the more you develop your frontal lobe through meditation, through Zohar study, through spiritual work upon yourself, the better is the result, the better and the higher is the intensity of the joy. However, here you have another problem. The sons of Aaron. This level of experiencing of joy also needs its awe. What is it about? Because when you chase after that high, okay, and you feel the great joy, the energy, the happiness, the excitement, you can lose it. You have to use awe. And all over here is you receive the chesed from above, God's light, and you have to immediately create judgment, boundary. So you're not going to burn by connecting without any limit to the network of light. How do you do that? I remember when I was just a beginner student, I used to, when I started to wire my body, my brain into connecting to spiritual light, the energy was so intense. I was like, I was high. And so I meditated twice a day, three times a day. I tried to do my best, and then I started to feel physical pain. And then I realized when you take it all for yourself, you burn yourself. You have to give if you want to receive. You need awe. You need to create chesed on one hand, the happiness of connecting to God's light. On the other hand, you need to create judgment. Whoever does not understand that can go and be so much enlightened till, like insects that go into the fire and that get burned. That's why it's so important to study Kabbalah, because it tells you, yes, the chesed, the joy of the light of God is so amazing, so much more powerful than all the body joy. However, if you don't apply judgment or carefulness, which means I cannot just, like the children, the sons of Aaron, run into the light and get burned. You want to be fulfilled, you want to get high, help somebody else to be high. Share that light. Occupy yourself with caring for others. Very, very important. Only when I understood that, the pain disappeared. I had physical pain. My body was aching. And I asked myself, why? And oh, very simple. You cannot just get, you have to give. Physically, by helping people physically, and spiritually by praying for others, not just for yourself. This is a very important secret that most people don't understand, because people, how can I get high? Okay, I eat a lot of good food. Okay, great. Not enough. Okay, wine. Yeah. Okay, great. Not enough. Can I get more? Oh, spiritual connection and so on. And people like they fly and then they fall apart. What's the problem? You get, you need to give. You need to create the central column. The Zohar speaks about it a lot. And that is very important part of this time of the year of the counting of the Omer. And that's why when we come to the month of Iyar, Iyar, the name of the month, is also the same letters, different order of Yareh, having awe. On one hand, Iyar is Taurus. Taurus is a left column, which means the ability to draw down, to pull in. So also the letters, according to the book of formation, Sefer Yetzirah, the letters of the month of Taurus are Pei and Vav. Pei for Venus, Vav is the letter that created the sign of Taurus. Pei Vav, numerical value 86, Elohim, judgment. So it's about you, without the minus, you cannot draw in electricity. Without the left column, you cannot. The more you want, the more you crave for God's light, the more you can bring in. Okay? However, Taurus in Hebrew is shor, judgment. Again, Taurus, ox, is a symbol in the Kabbalistic symbolic language. You read the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, you have the chariot, and the Taurus, the ox, is the symbol for left column, fire. However, You take the word for ox in Hebrew, the sign of Taurus, Shor. Gematria, the numerical value, is 506, which is the same Gematria of Ahavat Chinam, unconditional love, which means you want to activate the power of judgment, Elohim 86, the power of Taurus, left column, the power of the will, the desire to draw in the counting of the Omer, the illumination of the white light of the Creator. You have to balance it with sharing, with doing something for somebody else. The sons of Aaron, they went to the light. Their father, Aaron, he pulled in the light for the congregation. They did it just for themselves. They were burnt. So still, there's some more lessons over here. What happened to the sons of Aaron? They simply, what's wrong with wanting to be connected oneness with God? They did it without awe, without the without the judgment, without, like you have in any electric system, network in your household, you have also safety net in case of a short circuit. Okay? You build it in the foundations of the house. It's so important. You have to build, but the point is that you're not a house, you're a human being. You have to build that safety net on your own. How? Ah, you want to receive, you have to find a way to give. You want to achieve very high level of intense light, you have to create on the other end a very, very intense service for others. Unconditional love. And that's why when we said on the Parashat Kedoshim that usually Aharei-Mot and Kedoshim are being read adjacent to each other in the same week, love others as you love yourself. You want the highness, you need the height of light, the intensity of the light. You have to invest the same amount in doing good for other people, volunteering. And you know what? A lot of people don't have time to volunteer. But there's something more important than volunteering. You know what? But the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, Eastern Europe, 18th century, was asked, he had prophetic powers. And he was asked, when will the Mashiach come? And he said, very simple, when every person will do his or her job properly, which means, think about it. Any person you are in touch with, any professional, any person that gives you service. You know what? What is a society today? People giving service to each other. If each one of them will do it like the sons of Aaron, but corrected, which means with zealousy, with excitement, and with service, unconditional love of service towards the person you serve. In Hebrew, in Israeli Hebrew, you say, I don't know, that I went to that office, government office. Everybody was so excited to help me. Mashiach had come. It's Messianic days. Because exactly that's what it is. And where is the correction of the sons of Aaron? The Zohar is saying something very important we have to remember. How do we know that? The Zohar is asking in verse 21 in the Zohar of Parashat Aharei-Mot. And it says when it's being when we have the kind of chronicles on the book of Numbers, chapter 3, It speaks about the son of Aaron, Elazar. לקח לו מבנות פותיאל לאישה ותלד לו את פנחס. He took one of the daughters of Putiel as a wife, and she gave birth to him, Pinchas. The next word is Ele Rashei Avot Alvim. These are the heads of the Levites. Of course, this is, that's what the text is talking about. But you speak about Pinchas, and then you say, Pinchas, Elehem, these are. This is, not these are. Harei Pinchas bilvadoya. Pinchas was one person. Why do you talk about the heads of the Levites? About Pinchas? And the answer is, Nadav and Avihu, yes, on one hand, they wanted to connect to God, and they didn't care about the physical body. So they took off. And they died. For them, that was taking off. For the rest of the people, that was the end of the party, end of the celebration. However, they had to correct it. How did they correct it? Says the Zohar, when Pinchas, in the book of Numbers, in Bamidbar, when Pinchas saves the nation, there is a plague. 24,000 people died in the plague. When Zimri, one of the heads of the tribe of Shimon, takes to bed Cosbi Batsu, the daughter of the king of Midian. And there's a plague. People die, so many, and everybody cries. And Pinchas, he knows he's risking his life, but he, with zealousy, which means he wanted so much to save the people, that he basically went to God, but sacrificing himself for the whole nation. And that moment, where did he get the power to do it? The power to stay alive after he did what he did, after killing Cosbi and Zimri. Says the Zohar, Nadav and Avihu, he had a clinical death, which means near-death experience. His soul took off. He knew he's going to die. And then what revived him was Nadav and Avihu continued where they left 38 years earlier, got into his body, resurrected Pinchas from death, and now his soul, original soul, could come back in. And therefore, it says about Pinchas, these are, he was not only Pinchas, Pinchas got also incarnated into him, at that point, the souls of Nadav and Avihu, and they corrected, because when they died in Parashat Shmini, they simply took off because they wanted to connect to God. They cared nothing. They just wanted to get high. Now, they were enjoining Pinchas in sacrificing himself, giving him the support, and joining his soul to do that. And by this, they corrected their own original sin. And who is Pinchas? Pinchas, his zealousy, his light, his power, he became a high priest in that moment. And also, he got shalom, completion, peace, the covenant. So that's what really corrected. When they joined Pinchas in giving themselves, here kol vatam, getting close to God, here they got sacrificed themselves for the nation. So here, you want to see where correction can happen, and we spoke about it a lot, when you connect to revelation, to illumination, and that is the strongest washing detergent for the soul. We all know that, very simply, because let's jump again to the end. Love others as you love yourself. This is the motto of the parasha, the whole month of Iyar. It's all about Venus is about love. You can go to physical love of the physical dimension, a very materialistic love, and that is not, that's boring because as I said, what is more is less. So we see today people that have enough time and enough money to try every kind of physical pleasure, and they feel bored and they feel empty. Why? Because more is more is less. So simple. Any addiction starts in that place. Only when you look at the spiritual dimension, then you can activate that capacity in the sign of Taurus for a spiritual revelation. Now, why is it so important? So I explained it many, many times. We have this story, two different versions of the story. One with Hillel the Elder uh, around the first century CE about a convert that comes to Hillel and he asks Hillel, teach me the whole Torah standing 1 foot. And Hillel's answer is love others as you love yourself. Uh, Hillel's colleague, Shammai, was very upset about that question. He said, the Torah cannot be taught on 1 foot. But my interpretation will be, it's like we are talking about a convert. He realizes that the Torah is an ocean of wisdom. And his question was not teach me on 1 foot the whole ocean. He says, when I study, you know what they say, too many trees, you cannot see the forest. Every bit of wisdom, you can get lost with so much knowledge. How would I know, the convert is asking, that I'm on the right track? It will take me many, many years till I see the forest. Meanwhile, I'll be busy with the trees. How can I learn not to be distracted from the main goal? And Hillel said, love others as you love yourself. Here from Parashat Kedoshim. What does it mean? So I explained it many, many times. When we experience a real spiritual enlightenment, real, true, authentic happiness and love, how do we feel towards other people? Of course, as Rabbi Ashlag is teaching us, you cannot give what you don't have. If you're really enlightened, you feel love towards every being. Even those people who are really um, terrible human beings, you're not upset by their presence. You can tolerate them. You understand that they're in a bad place, but you're not personally offended. On the other hand, how do you know that you're not in a good place when everybody upsets you? Even people that logically you need them in your life because your interest is that those people will stay with you and support you. And you treat them with total disrespect. Why? Not because of logical interest, but because you are upset, because you are in lack, which means same thing what Rabbi Akiva, 100 years after Hillel the Elder said, love others as you love yourself. This is the whole Torah. This is the rule that includes, there's a general rule, klal, that includes all the other rules. Very simple. Then what the convert was saying, what Rabbi Akiva was teaching on Hillel, how do I know I'm on the right track? I can check myself. How? People. There are always people around us. How do I react to them? If they are annoying, if they upset me, if I cannot tolerate them, it means I'm not doing my spiritual job. I left the track and I'm off track. And that means that it's a big, big warning sign to get back into track. When? When everybody upsets me, when I cannot tolerate people, when I all the time feel like bad-mouthing them, disrespecting people and so on, and I always criticize them. What does it mean? I'm off track. If I connect through tefillin, Shabbat, study, holiday, whatever kind of a connection to the tree of life, how do I know that I'm really making the connection? I get higher. How do I know I got high? I love everybody. Even those they are not worthy of my love, still I don't hate them. I don't get upset about them. I'm not busy uh, getting bothered by them. Remember that. It's a very important rule. It's not about them, it's about me. And that's a basic rule, especially for these 7 weeks. Not to fall off track, because during these 7 weeks, we have a very condensed light coming from above. All the light of our Tikun comes down in 49 days of the Omer. But in order to get the light, you need also to get the challenges and the obstacles. I don't know if you know this, but people get very kind of, what should I say, impatient during these weeks. And you have to be really, really careful not to mess up, because if you mess up these weeks, you mess up for the whole year. Because this is rebuilding your soul tikkun structure, all the sefirot, 7 sefirot divided by 7. And then on Shavuot, the rest 10 by 10 sefirot. And that's why in Shavuot we get the 10 dibrot, 10 utterances, known by mistake as 10 commandments. It's not commandments. Okay, so that's why we have, after the sons of Aaron, Yom Kippur. There's no higher place along the year than Yom Kippur. A whole day dedicated just to climb the levels. You just shut down the physical body. You don't eat, you don't drink, you don't bathe, you don't have sex. Everything is focused on what? Connecting to the tree of life. You're just taking off. Step by step, 5 prayers, 5 steps from Olam Asiyah to Olam Yetzirah, to Olam Bria, to Olam Atzilut, to Olam Adam Kadmon, Malchut, all the way up to Keter. Wow, so powerful. And how that is working, because that light of Yom Kippur cleanses for the whole year. So the sages said that we start the reading of Yom Kippur with the 2 sons of Aaron, because the Zohar, because the Talmud says, it says many places, and the Zohar, Mishum shemitatam shebnei Aaron mechaperet al Israel. The death of righteous people, like the sons of Aaron, atones for us. Okay? Which means whenever a righteous person leaves this world, like the sons of Aaron, by up, I'm giving up all the physicality because I love God's light more than my body, more my money, more my pleasures, and all that kind of. But I leave all that behind me. Who cares? I want the light. When you connect to that state of mind of elevation and revelation, that's cleansing. Yom Kippur is about cleansing through atonement. Verse 29 adds something else in the Zohar. מכאן למדנו שכל אדם שבאים עליו ייסורים מריבונו. From there we learn that every person that goes through pain and suffering from God, הם כפרת עוונות. It's an atonement. Why do I have to suffer? It's an atonement. What's the problem with that? When we accept the pain as an atonement, it does atone. But when we react to the pain with anger, it makes it even worse. So even when not just when we enjoy or have we ego, we have to activate the power of overcoming by overcoming the desire, the reaction, and connect to godliness, as we spoke about in last parasha. And only when we do that, we start a new path, a new movie, a new direction in our destiny. Same thing when we go through horrible pain. The immediate reaction is like the wife of Job. He said, you know, you're going through so much pain. Curse God and die. How could be so righteous? Look at you. You're full of, you're sick, you're in pain. And Job says to her, you're really horrible. When we received all that happiness of and pleasure of wealth and whatever, we lived like crazy. Our life was so, we had to bless God, but now we don't bless God. It's all from God. So we have to bless Him for that too. When we do that, when we act this way, that's an atonement, which means we can overcome the pain and the lack of the body and still connect to God's light. So again, the light of God atones for everything. How do you get the light of God? You have to bring it in. You have to want it. You have to have this epiphany by creating that move, getting closer to the Creator. Okay, so we can see that again about Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur, just a little taste. The high priest will go during Yom Kippur into the Holy of Holies. Only time in the year that someone could go into the Holy of Holies, only the high priest on Yom Kippur. So so the Zohar, verse 52, says, Vayered Hashem b'anan, and God came down in a cloud, and it says, Be'anan erae ala kaporet, I will be seen upon the ark. And what was there? The cherubim, or in Hebrew, keruvim. By mistake, it was transliterated to CH. It's really K, keruvim. Those angels, two angels of gold that were carved upon the Ark of the Covenant. And the Shekhinah is being revealed with being between their wings. בשעה שנתגלתה עליהם קדושת המלך, when the holiness of the king of all kings, revealed to the high priest, ומכסים על הכפורת, they were covering with their wings the whole ark. והיו הכרובים פורסי כנפיים למעלה. As it says, that is in the book of Exodus 25, chapter 25, and the cheruvim, they were spread their wings from above. So when Aaron would get, that's verse 53, when the high priest will get into the Holy of Holies, and he will see the Shekhinah, the divine presence. But the Zohar says, הרי הכהן לא ראה את השכינה בשעה שנכנס לקודש קודשים. How could you see the שכינה? הוא משיב, אל הענן, he saw the cloud. He saw a kind of haze that was a reflection of the Shekhinah. היה יורד. The cloud came down upon the ark. וכשהיה יורד הוא מגיע לכפורת, and when he came down to the כפורת, מתעוררות כנפי הכרובים. The wings of the cherubim woke up and they started to to move their wings and to sing. מכאן היה יודע הכהן שהשכינה נראית כאן. That's how the Kohen knew that the Shekhinah. Can you imagine that? The high priest goes into the Holy of Holies, see a haze, and then suddenly the Kuvim, the two angels of gold, okay, flip their wings, hug, and sing. Verse 54. שואל, איזה שירה היו אומרים? Question, what kind of a song they were singing? הוא משיב, כי גדול אדוני מהולל מאוד, that God is great and praised. That was Psalm they were singing. Psalm 96. That was saying when they raise up their wings, חסד, that's why גדול, גדולה, חסד. ובשעה שפורסים אותם, היו אומרים, and when they spread them, they would say, כי כל אלוהי העמים אלילים, ואדוני שמיים עשה. And they will answer again from the same place, כי כל, all the gods of the nations are idols, but God made the heavens. So right column, left column. And when they cover the ark with the wings, היומים כלפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ. ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים במישרים. Which is from Psalms 98. God will judge, but the word is yishpot, it doesn't mean judge, that's yadun. Yishpot means will balance, central column. Okay, what do we learn from that? Very simple. That awakening of light we connect to on Yom Kippur, the highest level of awakening. You need revelation for cleansing and atonement. And that's why every time you perform a mitzvah, you perform the mitzvah to connect to revelation. You need to have the desire, the need, the yearning. You need to have the awe. That's a safety net. You need to have the desire. That's a minus. And you need to have what? I want that light because I want to share with others. Right, left, and center. And that's why we say in the beginning of the silent prayer, just in the beginning, Yael Gadol, the God of Gadol, great, Gadol Chesed, Hagibor, hero, but it means Gvura, judgment, Vehanora, full of awe, center column, Gadol, right column, Gibor, left column, Noah, center column. That's how revelation starts. That's why we mentioned that in the beginning of every time we pray the silent prayer, which is the highest level of the prayer in which we're supposed to reach that light of the Creator in the highest form, highest level. So, we can continue with the power of the Kohen, which means connecting with the Kohen, the Holy of Holies, Pinchas bod Shalom, wholeness, by balancing the connection. Verse 189 in Parashat Aharei-Mot. למדנו, Rabbi Yehuda אמר, we learned, Rabbi Yehuda said, הכהן מעורר שלום בעולם. The Kohen, the power of Chesed, the power of the light of God, מעורר, awakens shalom בעולם, in the world, above and below, למעלה ולמטה. And then it continues with, again, all the work of the Kohen in Bet HaMikdash during Yom Kippur, that we read that twice on Yom Kippur, once when we read the Torah, then second, during the Musaf, Chazarat HaShatz, a repetition of Musaf, we read that because we want to emulate that connection the Kohen did on Yom Kippur. We want to join that part because when the light awakens from above through our demand, through our desire to bring it down, then the atonement happens. And that's exactly what this Zohar is about. Now, we go to Parashat Kedoshim. And Parashat Kedoshim is starting, as we said, just so we have in Parashat Aharei-Mot, just to repeat what we have, the death of the two sons of Aaron, that's the first verse, again connecting to high, and the correction of that. Then Yom Kippur, okay, that's from verse 2, chapter 16. That again, Yom Kippur, another way, the highest way of connecting to revelation and elevation. And that's why it says, verse 30, chapter 16, Ki bayom hazeh yechaper alechem leter etchem. On that day, God will atone for you to purify you mikol chatotechem, from all your sins, lifnei Hashem titharu. The literal translation, you will be purified in the face of God. You have to face God to get the purification. So you have to ask, wish, desire the holiness of God on Yom Kippur and performing every mitzvah, every meditation. Then, chapter 17, it is about refraining from eating blood. You cannot eat blood. Why? Hadam hu hanefesh. Blood is the nefesh, the crude spirit, the animal spirit. So why we're not eating blood? Because you become what you eat. Everybody knows if you want to have your dogs very, what's the word? Good for hunting, protection, and so on, wild, you feed them raw meat with blood. That's what happens to you when you eat raw meat and blood. Okay? Do you want that? You don't want to become them. Same thing in ancient cultures and all kinds of tribes around the world. You want to have the vigor of the puma. You hunt the puma and you eat its heart with the blood when it's still hot and pumping. You have enough animal inside you that you want to get some more into it. That's why eating blood of a living animal, that's even not allowed to anyone, Jews and non-Jews alike. So you don't want to draw down below the blood because you want of an animal, because you want to rise above. So if you're eating blood and raw meat, how can you ascend? So that's also the whole idea of awe. You have to respect the system. You cannot eat blood, living animal, and then it continues with sexual atrocities. Chapter 18. כמעשה ארץ מצרים אשר שבתם בה לא תעשו. Do not act, behave like the Egyptians or the Canaanites. Their sexual morals were not really fit for modern speech. Till today, they don't show that in the museums. They don't. Why? Because it was a brain cannot even understand. Don't do that because you want to reach high. You cannot let that draw you down. So that's also another part of the Torah of Parashat Aharei-Mot. And then Kedoshim. Parashat Kedoshim, chapter 19 in the book of Leviticus. And there it says, Daber el kol adat Israel, speak to the congregation of the children of Israel. Ve'amarta alehem, and you tell them, Kedoshim tiyu. A lot of people make the mistake in the translation. You should be holy. That's a mistake, but what it says, you will be holy. It's a promise, not a command. Because in Hebrew, if it was a command, it's Kedoshim Heyu. But it says Kedoshim Tihiyu in a future tense. You will be holy. Ki kadosh ani, because I'm holy. You came from me, you coming back to me, and you will be holy. Now, if you really believe in that that's your journey, and that's your calling, Sefer Vayikra, the book of Vayikra, he called. That's our calling, that's our purification. Do it. And that's why most of the book of Vayikra we read Leviticus in the Omer. The 7 Shabbatot of the Omer cover most of the book of Vayikra. God is holy. So because the person say, how could I be holy? You know, how many religions say you are impure, you are defiled, you were born in sin and all of that nonsense in order to keep you low in guilt so they can extort you. Power and money. Religion can easily turn into power and money. God, what it says over here, it's a great mitzvah. It says, no, you were created by me, you came from me, therefore you will be holy. There's no discussion. It's a promise. You will be holy. Okay, how long would that take? No coercion. Take your time. You get up and fall, get up and fall. Finally, you will be holy. Why? You're going to go back where you came from. Where did you come from? From God. He's holy. You go back to be holy. Now, how does it start? So the Zohar says in Parashat Kedoshim, verse 16, Lamad Rabbi Abba studied, Parashah Zo Kedoshim, this Parashah Kedoshim, Hiklal Kol HaTorah includes the whole Torah. First of all, how do we know? Love others as you love yourself. However, it's more detailed. Hi chotam tabat haemet. This is the signet ring of truth, of God. בפרשה זו נתחדשו סודות עליונים של התורה. A lot of great secrets of the Torah being renewed in this parasha, especially בעשרת הדיברות, the 10 דיברות, the 10 sayings, Mount Sinai. We are preparing for Mount Sinai, right? How come the 10 דיברות? First of all, love others as you love yourself includes all of them. However, what's the first verse? Chapter 19, verse 3. Ish imo v'aviv tirau. You should have awe of your mother and your father. That's one of the 10 on the tablets, right? Honor your father and your mother. And then ve'et shabtotai tishmo, and observe my Shabbat. That's another one of the 10. And then verse 4, Al tifnu el elim, do not turn to the idols. I'm the God, your Redeemer, right? Ve'eloi masecha lo ta'asu, do not make idols. Here it is. And then you have a lot of loving others, all of these mitzvot, and you have do not steal, do not lie, do not vow in the name of God in vain. It's here more even detailed. So, and basically all of that based on what? Love others as you love yourself, which means when you do not steal, when you respect other human beings' property and their right for happiness, you're not doing anybody a favor. You're making your journey towards your cleansing, your purity, your holiness. And that is, again, You have the right column, excitement, love, and love out of excitement. That's a journey to achieve success. On the other hand, the left hand is awe, carefulness, boundaries, and then can come the emergence, which means what is awe? It's not fear. It's love out of respect. That's Noah. That's being aware on one hand of the greatness, not out of fear, out of respect, and out of, as the Midrash Rabbi is saying, אין יראה אלא מתוך שלמות. You feel awe when you experience the awesome greatness of God. How would you experience the awesome greatness of God? You have to ask for it. You have to yearn for it. You have to merit it. You have by actions, by learning, by meditation and prayer, by desiring it. And that's the secret of one hand, awareness, enlightenment, and also I'm God, your healer. Yeah. When do you get the healing? When your whole body and soul are at oneness, in awe of the greatness of the light of God. Then you heal. When you're occupied with the pain, with the complaint, with the victimization, with the hatred and all of that, that is not in that realm of holiness. Then you cannot experience the healing. So we are in a very, very trying era. The whole world is shaking. I think a lot of people feel, I call it brain dislocation. Whatever is happening around is so powerful. It's like tectonic shifts of whatever we know about politics and economy, and you just name it. Our souls are shifting inside. We feel confused. We have to stick to these rules in order to stay in the right path towards revelation. Everything that happens around us is in order to prepare us for the revelation. So if you just allow whatever happens to upset you and you're busy being upset and afraid and painful and so on, it will continue to give you pain and misery till you let go of it. Till you simply say, this is not pain and misery, this is an opportunity for rising, for basically preparing for the miracle of human growth. For us, for each one of us, for the whole of humanity. Be strong, study, meditate, work for it, and we'll see amazing results. God bless you.